What did Cinderella say when she got to the ball?
You're welcome, James. Anyway, let's get started. So another big week in sports means another Sports Hut podcast coming your way, whether you like it or not. Don't really have much choice because we've got nothing else to do on a Sunday night, clearly. We're going to start off with starting right at the start of the week, as I'm getting a shocked look hit in my direction. We'll start off on Monday, which was
Hi, Fiona.
Martin says hi. What? Thanks.
I'm glad we all take this so seriously. Anyway.
I know. So, another big week in sports means another Sports Hut podcast coming your way, whether you like it or not. Yes, yeah, that's getting edited, isn't it, mate? We're going to have to start again. Another big week in sports means another Sports Hut podcast coming your way, whether you like it or not. I've been a very busy week in terms of deadline day, all the international break that we've had. But we're going to start off right at the start of the week on Monday, which was a big week in Scottish football in my eyes. Hopefully for your eyes too, guys. But Hearts became the biggest British team to be fan-owned. The transferring of shares and such being completed now. And that's the deal done now. The debt's paid. Hearts can pay a debt, unlike Rangers, clearly. So now the biggest team in Britain to be, as I said, fully fan-owned. I think it's a big thing because it's a possibility to see if fan ownership outlook would work in Britain, more specifically in Scotland. You know, we've seen it in Germany. We spoke about it when we spoke about the European Super League. There's a good chance to see if this would work in a decent level now, do we think?
Well, yes, and I do think that it's actually been touted on by a couple of other teams. Newcastle was the team that I've heard they've started getting Hearts done early doors where they start writing to all the season ticket holders and they sort of got a note of interest of buying shares. So Newcastle have started the ball rolling on the same sort of idea. I think you just have to remember that it's exactly the same people on the board, exactly the same people that Hearts have fell out with constantly. You just get two other people on the board that are the foundation of Hearts that gets added into it. So they have access to the financial stuff, which means a lot of the dodgy dealings that used to go on can't get swept under the carpet anymore. Who was it done it? West Ham, when they moved from Upton Park to the Olympic Stadium, fans weren't happy at all with it, and there was a lot of dodgy dealings behind doors. Things like that wouldn't be able to happen now without fans knowing about it, or without at least two of the fans knowing about it. Their choice whether to tell everybody else. It is a way forward. I wouldn't expect miracles. It's still the same people running the club. It's fan-owned, not fan-run.
I think that's a very good point, but there will be a lot more transparency now. As you said, the foundation have always been present since the takeover bid, and there's been a lot more, especially if you look back to the Romanov era, there's been a lot more coming out about what happens behind closed doors. I feel like it's going to keep continuing in that sense, where there will be a lot more kind of, as I said, made public, anything that's going on, any dealings that's possibly in the works. I do feel there'll be a lot more fan opinions taken on board as well because of such a representation on the board.
It makes the board more accountable to the fans, doesn't it? You know, the fans own the club, so the people who now run the club are more accountable to the group of fans that are owning it. As you say, there should be more transparency.
And as well, the people who are representing the foundation on the board are also elected by the foundation, by the fans. So it means that if something's not happy, they are held accountable for their actions, and it's just a case of taking that to the next level. It's going to take time. It's just a start. obviously only happened on Monday, but I do feel like the way that there's been a lot of positivity around it, so just need to wait and see what happens from here.
So what you're saying is Hearts is now a club for the people, by the people.
Hearts have always been a people's club. I mean, we managed to save our club from financial ruin, save them from not relegation, unfortunately. But if we didn't get the points deduction, we wouldn't have been relegated anyway. But Martin's just like that because his team got relegated also and then got humped the following season. Bruce, you can't talk because your team went right down to the bottom, not actually the same team anymore. So it's I think it's a good.
Came back and won the league title though.
Eventually, after spending how much and how much financial ruin again?
Still waiting on you lifting the league title after coming back up.
We've lifted 2 league titles since our first relegation. You have Championship still league. Still count. Also been in more Scottish Cup finals than you as well. Let's not go there.
Excellent.
Martin was going to try and make a valid point.
Anyway. No, my internet keeps sort of dropping out, so fortunately I only hear a little bit of you. As far as it goes with the fan ownership, it's the right thing to do for Hearts because we've been ran so poorly in the past. I don't think it's every club's direction to go. I think Newcastle again, that it'd be a good move for them to go. But you kind of see teams like Leicester, Man City, teams like that doing it. I can see Rangers doing it. Obviously, teams that have been burnt before with poor ownership. But I can't see it being every team in the league following that course.
No, I definitely agree with that. I would say that it's not for kind of the bigger teams, if you will, in terms of the biggest teams in football. If you think in terms of Scottish football, Hearts are still probably considered a big team. So probably going against the grain against in that sense. But if you look at it since the foundation took over, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that Hearts have made profit every year since in terms of from the bottom line figure, which is a massive thing considering that how much redevelopment has went in to not only the team but the stadium, to the facilities, the academy. For us to be regularly making profit, it shows that it was a good move and that we're made a good step. And now it's a case of all the shares have been transferred over because the debt's been paid back to Anne Bludge. So this is like a chance for us now to kick on and improve on this. And I think the way that the season's started for us as well, it's a really good sign of where things could be going.
So what's the relationship now like with Anne Budge? Because obviously her rolling hole fiasco, she basically saved Hearts at the start of it. But she was extremely clear in the fact that she's doing it to make financial gain, which is fair enough. If she's investing that sort of money into something, you'd be expecting some sort of return. And now I know there was a lot of stuff about Nielsen and budget, and now she'll still be with the board. Is she still going to be on the board, but not owned, for as long as she's not sacked by the fans? Is that right?
I'm going to call you on that point because I've got a massive daddy long legs and a little lady jumping about the place having a freak. So give me 2 seconds.
I think to pick up on that point, Martin, I think I was listening to the radio the other day and I think I heard that Anne Budge is staying on for 2 years. Is she committed to 2 years? Part of that will be to continue on the transition to the foundation, I would imagine, just to complete that kind of transition period. But also, I think it's 2 years she's committed to stay on till to work on the board of the club and do what she does. Is that right, Gav?
I don't know in terms of length, but I know what she's going to say to assist in the changeover sort of process. I do know. I think that her position there is valued. No matter what, the fans will thank her for what she done, and in that sense, I think she does have a special place in for a lot of Hearts fans in terms of her position. However, at the same time, there's been obviously, as Martin said, a few moments where fans haven't wanted her there, but no matter what, I don't think her efforts can be undervalued and underestimated by Hearts fans, because if it wasn't for her, we would have ended up like Rangers, or maybe worse, Gretna.
I think
So.
I think as well, what's worth noting is that, while the foundation are going to have ownership of the club, to have somebody with the experience, knowledge, and skills like Anne Budge on board, in terms of her business acumen, that can only do Hearts a favour, because at least she half knows what she's talking about compared to just Tom, Dick, and Harry off the street. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think if you go this a step further than that, she's also a fan.
Exactly.
So she's always tried to put Hearts as a football club.
It's not
although she's probably thinking money wise.
And again, it's somebody who. Aye.
It's not like Mike Ashley.
I don't think you can overly badmouth what the leather-faced hag's done for Hearts. I think she's obviously got them to. She's fulfilled everything she promised to do, and I think they had to delay it, but that was due to COVID, which is completely understandable. And I'm pretty sure Craig Levine's sort of under a desk somewhere still. But she has promised to do stuff, and she's fulfilled everything she's promised to do, so you can't really bemoan her too much.
No, definitely not. And I think to go back to the financial situation that the club's in terms of been making profit, the year that we finished, we completed the main stand, so it was something like, I think the original price of it was maybe 10 million. It ended up being almost 22 million for the new main stand and the facilities that was added onto it. In that season, we still made a 9.8 million profit or something like that. So it shows you that she's done good. We've also been having the benefactors putting money into the club. So again, it shows that she's managed to bring that into the club. So I think that's helped us out a hell of a lot. And as I said, I think this season is a good time to kick on now.
We've discussed this before with football teams that are making money. It's usually down to selling your best players, though. It's not a route that you want to be doing. Obviously, they are getting to a point where they're able to sell players, which is always a good thing. How much you get for Harry Cochrane? And it goes with that. You've got to try to keep your best players as opposed to sell them. So I think financial profit, although it is an important thing, it's nice to sort of be in the black, be in the money making side of things constantly. But it's still a football team. You have to speculate to accumulate at times.
But to go on that point, Martin, who was the last kind of big sale that we made that you know of anyway?
Hickey, maybe?
Right, so
Aaron Hickey?
That was January.
A couple of years ago? January there?
That was last summer, yeah.
Apart from that,
if we say Aaron Hickey, you say had Uche. Uche went for a decent fee. But before that, you've got to go back a couple of years and look at someone like Osman So, who went to China for over £1 million. But apart from that, there's not been very many. It's just been a case of people letting their contracts go out, or because it's the way the Scottish game is, a little amount is actually enough for Scottish teams to go, do you know what? I'll take that. But I suppose to
and then you get players like Naismith who were good players, but obviously retired at the club as opposed to being able to sell them on. But it is a weird sort of thing to look at when you're trying to balance sheets on a football club, when your academy is what you're trying to dip into, so you're not selling players that are high level.
I think that is, as I said, to pardon the pun, it's a good foundation now to build upon. But to kind of round this one off, to see, do you guys think that this is something we could see becoming a more mainstream in British football, and then the sub-context for that more especially Scottish football, do we see more fan ownership taking place?
I
reckon as soon as Hearts fuck it up and go to the wall, I don't think anybody else will try it. No, I think there'll be another few teams that will go down the route. I think it's a sustainable route to a degree. Obviously, the money is getting paid in by fans constantly, so there is a stream of money coming in as well as season tickets on every year. It's that there isn't anything wrong with doing it. It's just whether it suits certain clubs, and I can see other clubs going that way. Yes.
I like the idea. Like Martin, as I say, it's not going to, like Martin said, it's not going to suit every club. Do I see it happening?
Do you like it happening to Rangers, Bruce?
I like the idea of the fans having like full control in terms of ownership of the club, and obviously, as you said, it'll still be run by the people who run the club, but I like the kind of accountability factor and the transparency about it. I think a lot of clubs might sit and watch Hearts first to see how it plays out before, like the fans groups and stuff. They'll all be wanting to kind of own their club, because who doesn't want to like have a share in their club that they love? But I think a few people might be watching Hearts to see how it plays out first, as you say, Martin, see if it goes to the wall. But yeah, I think it's going to happen. It's just whether Hearts make a decent go of it initially and how that looks to the wider crowd.
I think if we're going to talk about Scottish football, teams like Motherwell, who have a very good fan base, have done through COVID, and that they could benefit of this sort of thing. I think there's a few teams that are like that in terms of in Scotland that might be able to use it to their advantage, but no, it's going to be a case of trial and error, and Hearts was the guinea pig at the moment, which we'll wait and see how that turns out. But to progress on through the week, that was Monday, but then Tuesday was the closing of the transfer window. Bruce has took note of some of the bigger deals that took place across Europe and Britain, so we'll see what his thoughts on it were.
Yeah, so just came across a list of stuff, and kind of the bigger European moves on deadline day. Wanted to go through some of them and just grab your thoughts.
Let's get our passport, Martin. We'll be jumping on some planes here.
We're going on planes, but I'm going by the list I have in front of me. So you know what? Some of them aren't too bad.
Remember the whole isolation thing though, because the Argentinian players forgot about that.
It's okay. And are we all double vaccinated? Are we all good to go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right.
Martin's a Hibs fan, so he doesn't need to be vaccinated because they're swamp people.
No, that's not nice. Anyway, let's focus on actual football and no Hibs, right? So, Antoine Griezmann on loan from Barcelona to Atletico Madrid.
I would like to meet Atletico Madrid's fucking accountant, the guy who sorts out these deals. Fucking magician.
You didn't let me get to that bit yet.
Go for it.
So Griezmann signs for 120 million euros in 2019. That's all funded by loans and mortgages against, everything else. And Barca have now loaned him back to Atletico for 10 million euros with an obligation to sign permanently for around 40 million euros. That sounds like an excellent deal, right? No?
Not from Barcelona's point of view.
For Athletic, guy, you've got to keep in mind with that they gave him Suarez and basically in the league.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in terms of Griezmann, good move for Griezmann. Leaving Barcelona, going to Atletico. Thoughts?
Yes, Barcelona.
Sorry, Martin, you go.
There you go.
I'm saying that if you think about it, right? So 120 million euros, you said this. Yeah.
What was that? Sorry.
Griezmann signed to Barca 120 million.
Yeah.
He went back for 10 million and possibly 40 million on top of that.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference of about 70 million.
70 million. Yeah.
He scored 22 goals in his 70 odd appearances at Barcelona. So it means that each goal has cost Barcelona 3.2 million roughly.
Listen to
I think
Mr.
that tells you-
Mathematics over here.
That tells you about the deal and how good it is for Barcelona.
So all in all,
I think it's a good deal for Griezmann to a degree because Barcelona are going to push this year, and it gets him out of there and gives him a chance to win the league with Atletico Madrid because Barcelona won't be anywhere near the top of that table.
If he can find the form he had at Atletico that warranted the move to Barcelona in the first place, then it'll be a good move. But if he has the same form he's had at Barcelona, it's going to be a shambles. And Barca will be sitting laughing about it.
in terms of the past wee while, when I think about Barcelona, I can't help but think about rats in a sinking ship. Do you know what I mean? It's not a great state of affairs at Barcelona, is it?
You say that though, but rats are very good swimmers. So.
Well, rats are very good swimmers. Anyway, while we're on the Barcelona chat, Luke de Jong has moved on loan from Sevilla to Barcelona. 19 goals in 94 games.
He's got a worse return ratio than Griezmann.
Hasn't necessarily been brilliant at Sevilla over the past 2 seasons, but the thinking from Barcelona on that one.
Well, he did well in Holland when he was there, but then
Basically, they
have
a cheap rate.
It's a weird one because you've got the whole fail. He did well. I said did well in Eredivisie, failed in England, did well in the Eredivisie again, went to Sevilla, and hasn't really lit up things there. Barcelona at the start of the season were looking at a front three of Aguero, Depay, and Messi, and now they're looking at a front three of, well, even you can even chuck Griezmann in there, front four, and now you're looking at a front four. You've got Martin Braithwaite, Luke de Jong, and then Depay and Aguero are still there, but both of them want to leave. They went to play with Messi. Messi's not there anymore, so it's they've got a lot of issues to try and figure out. That doesn't make sense in my head, that transfer.
So, looking still in Spain, so Eduardo Camavinga's moved from Rennes to Real Madrid. Rennes originally thinking that they were originally talking about 60 million euros for Eduardo Camavinga, but ended up accepting 30 million euros from Real Madrid. But how does Real Madrid fit into a midfield that consists of Luka Modric, Casemiro, and Toni Kroos?
Camavinga's one for the future. He's not there to go into the midfield just now. He'll be there when Kroos and Modric, even Casemiro's quite getting on a bit. I think he'll be there for when they leave. Him and Valverde will probably be their future midfielders. 30 million is an absolute steal because he was linked with Man United for 100 million this summer as well. So I do think that's a big move for Madrid, and he's Real Madrid's future.
He'll gain quite a lot of experience, training with those midfield players as well, which can only, as you say, make him that kind of solid midfielder for the future, eh?
Definitely.
Martin, did you have any thoughts on that one before we move on?
Nope.
Take that, okay. So, Emerson Royal moves from Barcelona to Tottenham for 25 million euros, 21.4 million pounds. Thoughts? Fight amongst yourselves to talk first.
I feel like Martin's knowledge of the Liga isn't massive.
No, I don't watch a lot of the Liga. I'll watch the El Clasico, and that's about it. So, Gavin, take this one away.
I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Bruce, but I'm pretty sure he played with Barcelona, then went to Betis on a loan plus, and then like option to buy. And they used the option to buy, but there was a buyback clause in his contract.
Yeah.
Which they used this summer. When they signed him back, they said we want him to stay here for a long time. We'll put 200 million buyout clause. Blah 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 blah. He's not going anywhere, and then 30 million comes along, and it's like, oh, okay, thanks. We need the money. Bye.
So, Gav, just when you mentioned that, so Barcelona signed Emerson Royal for €9 million in a complicated deal with Real Betis. So, you're talking, what's that, 14 million, no, 16 million euros profit. But €5 million of that needs to go to Real Betis as part of the clause in the deal.
That 9 million is going to help them pay back the 2 billion debt that they're in. Yeah.
Well, we tend not to talk about that. So yeah, that's Tottenham. Happy days. Martin, here's more one up your street. You're allowed to contribute. Oh,
yes.
Daniel James moving from Manchester United to Leeds.
So the Daniel James transfer, it was talked about them going to Leeds a couple of years ago, last summer or something. Anyway, but what was more interesting about it was Daniel James's number. Now, Daniel James is 21. Cavani is number 7. Man United just signed Ronaldo, who's CR7. He's got the trademark everywhere for CR7. So Ronaldo obviously wanted number 7. I'm pretty sure Cavani's just said, well, I'll take 21, and they've just punted Daniel James at the door just to make sure they've got keep everyone else happy.
To make this one even funnier is the fact that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, when Man United were playing Leeds fans were chanting to Daniel James saying that he wasn't good enough to wear the Leeds shirt. And then Daniel James in his interview said it was an amazing roar for me. But no, he obviously didn't know what they were saying.
And
I think with that, are you going to talk any more about Man United? This is my only chance to talk about Man United, Bruce.
Well, Cristiano Ronaldo was signed on deadline day, but that's about it on my list.
Massive signing, may in fact win the league for Man United. I am still shocked and amazed that they did not bring in a centre midfielder, because Fred is pish. The first 5 minutes of the last game, I saw him pass away play, lose possession 3-4 times, almost going to win a goal, almost going to win a penalty. And I don't know how he's winning a Man United top week in, week out.
You've got McTominay though.
He's injured.
I know, but when
he's is a calf injury, something like that. So you've just got Fred in there. When he comes back, especially I can see Man United changing the formation to a degree and going with 3 up front and only having 1 sitting midfielder as opposed to the 2 that they had all last season. So it'll either be Fred or McTominay. Also, another wee point to make, just there's always a conversation about who's better, Messi or Ronaldo. Messi's decided to go to a team who's ended up to be the 6th best league in the world, with a team that should walk the league. Obviously, they didn't last year. And Ronaldo's went to the best league in the world, to a team who nobody actually had in the top 3 or 4 most times. So I think Ronaldo at 36, still trying to compete, still trying to win things, and not just going for the easy way out.
I feel sorry for Newcastle.
Like tax dodging Messi.
I feel sorry for Newcastle that have got to deal with Ronaldo in his debut. I think it's very likely he will play. I feel like they're going to have a tough time.
Awesome.
especially after his goals that he scored for Portugal this week against Ireland.
Especially since Ronaldo, he scored the goals for Portugal and then he's suspended, so he's not going to play the next game. So he's went to Man United to start training and settling in.
I feel like that might have been done on purpose.
So I didn't fancy. I'd put him in your goal scorer. Aye.
So I've got a wee bit more left to go on my list, so you'll have to humour me for a little bit longer, but we'll get there. And I will jump a bit because it's not very organised. However, Arsenal have signed the internationally renowned Japanese centre back Takehiro Tomiyasu. Yep, from Bologna. Yep, everyone know who we're talking about.
Arsenal haven't got a great record of signing good defenders.
Apparently,
I'll be interested to see how it pans out.
apparently his agent was trying to get a lot of Premier League teams to sign him, but no one was wanting to sign him because the agent even came out and said that he's not quite a right back, but he's not quite a right midfielder, and he's not a very good centre back either.
So he's 23.
You can't say he sells it, do you?
Aye,
It's like trying to sell this phone that's not very good. The touchscreen doesn't work, but it's a good phone. Buy it.
He's 23. He can play right back or centre back. Apparently, neither very well. Why be good at one thing when you can be equally as bad at two things? Do you know what I mean?
To go back to a point Martin made,
That's all.
Mr. Hickey is a right back and left back, so he's at Bologna. Is he the reason that this Japanese boy's moved away? He's like, I can't get in the Bologna team, I need to go and find a shitter team. Oh wait, Arsenal are looking for a defender after getting rid of Hector Bellerin, who's an actual decent defender.
Obviously they were under pressure to find a replacement, but Bologna have come out of this making an €11 million profit because they signed Tomiyasu for €9 million. So the €11 million profit. So they'll be rubbing their hands together. Do you know what I mean? But Gav, as you said, Bellerin's away to Real Betis on loan. So did they feel like overly pressured to get a replacement in?
I think that's a good move for Betis, especially after losing Emerson, which then meant they had to buy a right back. So they've got Betis, got Bellerin on loan. Good move, considering I think he's a better defender than what Cedric Suarez is, who's been playing for Arsenal ahead of Bellerin. So it was good for Bellerin to get him moving. He's also back in Spain, so he's probably going to get called up to the national team more. We're playing more there.
Mariba off to Red Bull Leipzig from Barcelona.
How many points have Arsenal got this season so far?
Say that, sorry?
How many points have Arsenal got this season so far? Still none? Yeah, I thought so.
Aye. So, Mariba off to Red Bull Leipzig from Barcelona.
It was going to happen. It was going to happen. He's a very good player, very good potential, but he was one of the few players who refused to take a pay cut to pay for Messi, and he demanded more actually from Barcelona. So the fans were like, "No, get him out." So the board were like, "Yeah, we'll get him out."
Excellent.
Barcelona's fucked basically.
Well, pretty much. They're not doing themselves any favours, are
they? They are. They are.
Gav, right down your street. Chelsea got Saul Niguez on loan from Atletico Madrid.
He's a very good player. Don't see the point in us having him. If I'm completely honest, we've got a lot of midfielders. If you're playing him as a winger, got a lot of wingers. Playing him as a kind of attacking midfielder. Havertz and Mount kind of have that position down.
I thought the Chelsea squad was looking a bit thin. I thought you were going to about 50 or 60 players.
Have you included the ones out on loan with at 80? And I don't see much point in the move, especially with the fact that you've kind of got well, if you look at Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic making up the midfield, two of them. You look at your midfielders, your wingers. The fact that we've been playing wingers as wing backs to try and get everyone involved in the squad, it's like, well, there's not much point in getting them in. So he's in. He'll help the rotation a bit. We also made I think Thomas Tuchel turned around and stopped a move for Hudson-Odoi going on loan to Dortmund. So hopefully we'll see more of him. But again, I don't know how Tuchel will keep them all happy.
That was a weird one for me. That was a weird one for me. That I think a move like that would have really helped Hudson-Odoi.
It would have definitely.
I can't see him being too happy about getting kept on the bench at Chelsea for another season because I don't see him being a first team player.
The fact that for him to get into the squad, he's been playing as right wing back, or left wing back, and now you're looking at a team who's not got a right winger since Jadon Sancho went away. In terms of a first team right winger, it's like, well, it would have been a good move. He would have been playing every week, and they've always been good at bringing young players through and playing young players. I think it would have been a great move for him, but I'm hoping that it means that he'll get played more under Tuchel. The fact that he turned into the board and said, I'm not letting him go. So yeah, my reaction was the same, Martin, but I think because he turned around and he's the one that didn't sanction it, he said, no, it's not happening. Makes me think he's going to get played.
They at least have sent the lad on loan though, because a team like that really, I mean, having Haaland in the box and you're just taking people on, pumping it in the box for Haaland to get onto.
And could have convinced Haaland
really
to
benefit Hudson-Odoi.
Could have put in the groundwork.
I've got two more on my list.
Yeah.
Nuno Mendes, €7 million loan fee from Sporting CP to PSG with the option to buy for €40 million.
Me.
Whatever happened to the fair money thing with football that you weren't allowed to spend too much money? PSG just no get that memo, or
PSG haven't technically spent a lot. Technically, PSG's transfer window's been free. The only player they've actually went out and bought is Wijnaldum. It's his wages.
See, they're just very clever.
It's been a brilliant transfer window for PSG. It's bad they play in that Farmers League.
Talking about PSG, last on my list, player who was on loan at PSG last season, away back out on loan this season because his club didn't want him. Moise Kean, away out on loan to Juventus.
Good move.
I never understand the concept of loaning a player out to a team that's better than you.
Yeah.
Usually, loans are brilliant for getting young players who can't quite get in the team, and unless you're trying to get somebody off the wage bill, or you just didn't want them, I never understand the sort of loaning players away because you just want rid of them to somebody else to pay his wages. It's obviously a bad buy by Everton, but
yeah, it's the new Martin. It's a new way of working. Is that it's a loan to buy, the loan option with option to buy.
Yeah. Try
before you buy, blockbuster deal. You know, if our two viewers remember what blockbuster is or used to be.
So talking about that, the deal itself, 2-year loan with an obligation to sign him for €28 million.
But you
with €3 million in add-ons.
So he signed it. It's obligated to sign.
But they bought him. But they bought him for $27.5 million. So they're only making $500,000 profit.
Aye, but they're saving the wages that they didn't have to pay him anymore.
Yeah.
And he fell out with Ancelotti.
Depending on what it's been loaned, something you have to pay.
I'm sure he fell out with Ancelotti.
Aye, but you've got a new manager in now.
So
I've
that's
just realised I've just contradicted
Aye.
myself 5 times
that's
there by
my
saying
European.
Saturday
That's my
Sunday.
It's a weird.
I feel like there's a lag in Martin's speakers.
There's a massive lag. I've still seen it. Bruce and your face haven't actually changed at all. You look every time I start speaking.
Hey, sorry, Bruce, back to your point.
That's the last of my deadline day Euros list. Summing up kind of some of the bigger signings on deadline day across Europe.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Any you want to chuck in, Gav?
I think just to quickly go over how we think our own teams performed in this transfer window. Just as get our own opinions on things there. Don't know who to start with though. Bruce, you can decide that one.
Martin, tell us what's been happening down your side of the city.
Well, I've been saying on the podcast for the last wee while that the most important thing for Hibs was keeping the players that were attracting big money moves. So James, who constantly courted Nisbet, he didn't go. So Nisbet's still with us. Porteous still with us. Doig got a lot of interest, but that ended up falling through, so he's still with us. So we only really lost probably Marciano, who we already knew was going to go. Players out, players in. There was 2 or 3 good players who were brought in. Jake Doyle-Hayes, quite happy with. Jamie Murphy for Rangers. Daniel Mackay for Inverness. I'm quite happy with the transfer window.
Martin, you're saying that you've not lost many players, but you were raving about Jackson Irvine when he signed, but he's away, isn't he?
Aye, so he was. I think it was. It's weird for how long the transfer window is. You don't really notice the ones that go just at the start of the transfer window. Jackson Irvine came in, did a job. I quite liked him. He's away to Australia, I think. But
Not Germany.
I actually really like Jake Doyle-Hayes that has came in, and Jamie Murphy. So I'm not too distraught with Jackson Irvine going. And the rest of the players leaving, I don't think we're first team really, over the past year anyway. So I think it's definitely a transfer window where we've strengthened as opposed to weakened our team, which does happen at times. What about you, Gav? What's your thought on Hearts?
Well, I think we've had a solid summer. We suited in some very good positions we needed to. You look at Benny Banagimi, did a brilliant game again, so brilliant start of the season. Great first game against Celtic at the start of the season. Free transfer from Everton. I think Josh Ginnelly, who we've managed to sign on a permanent after a decent loan spell. Managed to get Ben Woodburn on loan from Liverpool. I think he's got a brilliant chance for Hearts to push us on up the league a bit. Hopefully get a few goals as well, some good assists. Cochrane from Brighton's done a good job so far, starting at the back. And we've also signed Moore from Crystal City, who's a centre back. Hopefully he can come in and do some good things. But then you also look at the fact that we've signed Ross Stewart on a permanent from Livingston now that his loan's finished, but I don't see the point in us signing him. I'd much rather have Harry Stone playing, but I think he's about on loan now.
I think you look at it's the loan signings that Hearts have got in that the ones that are interesting. Ben Woodburn, Alex Cochrane, and Taylor Moore. I think they're the ones that will add a lot to their team. Bengami, looks a decent player. I can't say I've seen much Cameron Devlin or Josh Ginnelly.
Josh Ginnelly did really well last season for us in the Championship and probably one of our best players last season. And Cameron Devlin, I've not seen much of him, but I've heard he is a very, very good midfielder. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. He was a deadline day. Although Hearts fans knew it was happening, he was a deadline day confirmation. But it's our transfers out that is interesting because
What?
we've not made any money. Although we've not really spent anything, all the transfers free. I think Cammy Devon might have cost us a bit, but
What I'm looking at is the amount of players that Hearts have got going out the team. I don't know how many of them are. Obviously, we've got Lee Smith, who retired. Zamal, who obviously, if you've got Gordon, he's still going to be playing anyway. Andy Irvine, Craig Whiten, Harry Cochrane, Colin Doyle, Christoph Berra, Ollie Lee, Elliot Frere, Lewis Moore, Colin Doyle twice for some reason, that one. Harry Cochrane, Sean Ward, Leroy it seems like there is a wee bit a lot more players out than in.
I think it was needed.
Hearts. They used to have a big squad.
Yeah, Hearts have always had a massive wage bill, and so to get some of them out is a big thing. You know, Harry Cochrane, big guy, didn't ever work out for him. Hopefully, he does well in his future. Christoph Berra, he was told he was not going to play. Eddie White was a big wage; it wasn't needed. Elliot Freer, never rated him. Lewis Moore, I think he had potential, but he never showed enough of it at Hearts. Ollie Lee, God, didn't ever work out for him at Hearts. He was brilliant. Great. Bruce will tell you this. Great dead ball. Kick. You wanted him taking them. Yeah, well, he was there.
Ollie Lee was absolutely super, and I had the pleasure of commentating on Ollie Lee's performances on a number of occasions, and as you say, give his dead ball, free kick.
The whip he got in the free kicks was scary. But
no,
all in all, I'm happy.
On the money quite regularly as well.
No, but all in all, quite happy. I feel like we've strengthened in the areas we've strengthened in, so we'll take it.
I think your biggest miss is probably Naismith retiring. Whether you've got enough to cover him. The loan deals seem to be.
I think that's why Ben Woodburn's came in. He works well as a winger, but also as an attacking midfielder. So I think with him and like Josh Ginnelly playing out wide, we have the cover there. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how Woodburn does. What about you, Bruce? What about the blue side of Glasgow?
So Bruce.
So Bruce, yes. 4 signings. Fashion Sakala up front. Namdi Offobor, John Lundstrom and Janino Bacuna, all midfielders. So yeah, I think we had a decent quality squad last season. A bit covering maybe needed to be done, a bit of depth in positions, but generally speaking, a lot of the players we've got are pretty decent, and I quite like the squad we've got. George Edmondson, obviously away to Ipswich. As Martin alluded to, Jamie Murphy's away off to Hibs. Jamie Burjonas went to Kelly Hearts. Obviously Nicola Katic is away on loan, as is Glenn Middleton, Jake Hasty and Cedric Itten. And Jordan Jones is away as well. So, yeah, got rid of some bodies that were just kind of kicking about.
Happy with the transfer window, Bruce?
Yeah, relatively happy. As I say, it was more depth coverage, and I think
we've got a lot more players going out than in, though.
We have, but apart from, I would say, apart from the only ones I would say we would miss really, I quite liked Katic.
I was going to say deadline day was Katic and Itten leaving. I was quite surprised at them too, because they were always quite heavily involved with the games.
Yep.
Especially Cedric Itten. Cedric Itten was a big fan's favourite, wasn't he?
He was. We used to call him Said the Ted.
Never heard that before.
The hashtag that was all over Twitter.
I heard that once.
So yeah, that was.
Did you just make up a nickname for somebody who's already left?
No, that was his nickname. And yeah, do you know what? I think we've still got decent quality in the squad. And we've got a few players from down south up to cover a bit of depth in positions. But do you know, I think we'll fare pretty well this season again. Obviously, we had the awesome result last weekend with a weakened squad. So yeah, we'll see how we go.
I've got to say, though, Lundstrom's been absolutely shite.
You say that, but I think what's happened with that though is because Rangers won that game against Celtic. Celtic board have then looked at it and thought, we're actually going to do something, and they've actually went and done a bit of business and probably strengthened their team for the running of the season. So I think with James
Martin,
not here, we can always mention
some of the
players that Celtic brought in and got rid of. I think the big things for them was getting rid of Edward after his miss against Rangers. It just didn't look like he wanted to be there. And Christie, the guy who's just hitting balls into the stand for no reason whatsoever, he's away. But they're bringing a lot of players in. I think when James was on last week, James went through the positions that needed to be strengthened, and I think they brought somebody in for just about every position that they talked about. I think he maybe short of centre midfielder, but Ken James McCarthy coming in, good player. Who was the boy for Tottenham?
Joe Hart? No, Carter Vickers. The centre back.
There's that lag again.
Yeah. And then there's, I think they have strengthened quite a lot of positions, and they managed to move a lot of good. I'm obviously drifting in and out of what's here, so it's the important stuff you hear. But the players that they've got ready, I don't think they're massively losing out. I think the players that they're bringing in will add to their squad, and I think a couple of the signings might actually just help them push Rangers a wee bit more this season.
Talking about push Rangers. What are you meaning push Rangers, Martin? Rangers aren't even near the top of the league. It's only Hearts and Hibs are top of the league at the moment, you know.
I can't. Oh, aye, and I think that didn't get mentioned once last week on the podcast, and I don't know why, Gavin. Obviously, it was talked about whoever wins this game is going to win the league, and we're even top of the league. Well, one team's 7th and one team's 4th or something.
As a very wise man said, let the
two
other
Edinburgh teams
welcome the chase.
sitting 1st and 2nd, equal points.
The capital finally shown up.
Yeah. Is that everything on the deadline day stuff?
I think
anything else you want to add in?
I think as amusing
Oh,
as
there was one exit out of Celtic that is probably worth mentioning, and Mr. Griffiths has left the building. Do we think he's going to do a job for Dundee? I have heard that he's a bit of a predator.
I heard that he's taking up some time to coach the under-14s.
I'm sure he is.
Anyway, let's move on to international football. I'll try to keep this a little bit quick. I think the last couple of ones have ran on a bit.
all these air miles.
Just a little bit. Scotland, Moldova. We will. Gavin, last minute, you decided to jump along to Hampden and go watch Scotland as Moldova. What was your thoughts on the game?
To not talk about the game for a second, the atmosphere was absolutely electric. Wasn't any period of quiet from when we got there. We unfortunately missed the national anthems in the first 10 minutes, but we got there just as the goal went in. First half, we played well, some good passing, did have a good threat. Second half, by the first 20 minutes of the second half, we were poor and we were put under a bit of pressure. At no point did I think we were going to concede, but we should have scored more than one goal. But you could see the difference of certain players.
When you go through the chances that we had, Tierney's header, Robertson 1-on-1. I think Gilmore had two really good chances. Hanley header. They were all more than half chances, I would say. We special mention to Patterson, who was first start. Patterson. He plays well. I think it's definitely an improvement on O'Donnell. And I can see him being in the squad a bit more often. Nisbet as well. Nisbet, although I don't think he probably didn't have as many chances as he should, he basically set up the first goal. Again, it was Patterson's shot that was missed, but he set up the chance for that. He set up Gilmore for a chance that he should have scored. I think there was another one he set up as well.
Nisbet was fairly quiet on the kind of attacking goal scoring side of things, but he some very good passes. I think he had a very good game. Adams, when he came on, he showed his strengths in terms of holding up play, but running behind. There's a few moments of miscommunication between the midfield and the attack. We could have had more opportunities. But Billy Gilmore in the middle of the park, we raved about him on this.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal. It's just that thing that we're missing is a finisher, consistent finisher. For me, my worry of us is, of course, we've got Denmark and Israel above us.
Aye, we are missing a top three.
Yeah, Israel have the Erhan Zahavi is his name, scored 26 goals in his last 25 international games. We don't have that.
I go back to my usual rant. How many times do we have to play Israel before we can feckin' beat them?
9th of October, hopefully we beat them. We need to beat them.
Here's hoping, but we've played them like at one point it felt as if we were playing them all the time, and we still weren't beating them.
I think you look at Israel and they're a team that's at our level. They're no miles better than us. We're not miles better than them. I think we should be better than them, though.
We should be, man. We should be.
With Liverpool, Man United, other teams like that. So we should be better than them. But as it is, they're a team of our level. I can see us pushing forward a bit. I think there is improvements to be made. I know there's a lot of people not happy with the performance against Moldova. But another game coming up Tuesday night game. That's turned out a must-win, especially how Israel are pushing on the group. But remind everybody, there's only one team that gets through from the group, and the team that's second place goes into a playoff. So
I don't agree it's a must-win.
So
I don't think
we
it's a
need
must-win.
to win all our games. No, I think Scotland fall into this quite a lot, though, where we don't win the games early enough on, and they would put our backs up against the wall for the end of the group. And yes, by the time the second or third last game comes, we're still going to have a chance of doing it. That keeps happening. We need to win early doors. We need to get points on the board early. Because that's the only way we're actually going to get out of this group.
I think if we want to talk about the next game being a must-win, we could probably get away with it being a draw. If you think about the fact that Israel have Denmark undefeated, not conceded the goal yet, so we don't need to win. We can get a draw. However, Austria, they're leaking goals at the moment, so as long as we can...
Was it with Denmark?
Yeah, 2-0. But yeah, Israel beating Austria 5-2 last night gives us confidence that we can hopefully go and we can get some goals in. There's a possibility there. Israel only 1 point ahead of us. They've got Denmark. They should lose. I think they'll lose that one. However, we have Denmark at the end of the last game for the group, which could make or break whether we go through. By that point, we really need them to have either lost points or at least lost a goal. So therefore, they're not as bothered about keeping that, because by then they should be qualified anyway. If you think the next two games are our biggest games, because we've got, I think the next two games are Austria and then it's Israel. And then we've got, I think it's Israel next, but then we've got the Moldova away. We've got, I think it's the Faroes away, and then Denmark at home to finish it off in November. Which we're hoping we can get the second place for the playoffs.
We just need to start playing the way we can play. Do you know what I mean? Like,
That was before the Denmark Scotland game, so I think we only had a wee period of losing the two goals quite close together, and apart from that, they were still much better than us. But we've sort of kept it to those two goals in that short space of time. Whether they could have sort of pushed a bit more for it, but Denmark are a team well above our level, in my opinion.
No, I agree with that. But I think we're making chances. We're just not taking them, and that's where we need people to chip in with goals, especially from midfield when we got opportunities, open goals, or clear-cut opportunities like we had Gilmore's. Robertson had a couple. There's a few long-range shots. We're passing the ball a bit too much. We just need to get a shot away. There was an effort last night. It was edge of the box. David Turnbull had it, and instead of trying to beat them as defender and take a shot because he was better than him, he beat him a couple of times. He passed out to the wing, and it's frustrating when you're doing this passing out to the wing to the ball and looking for Dykes or Adams or someone to get a header onto it, rather than you can just take the shot from the outside of the box. When we've got the players like McGregor, like Christie, when he's not aiming for James's head, to actually get these shots away and get goals. There's Martin's reaction.
I'm like, I want to jump in, but I'm waiting on Martin's lag kicking in.
Is there any other... There you go, Bruce.
Oh, excellent. No, what I was going to say was, I was listening to Steve Clark on the radio, and he wasn't really filming with much confidence, because he was saying, oh, well, like 1 goal, that's 3 points against Moldova. Well, happy days, like, well done, but should have been a lot more. Like, yeah, let's take the 3 points, but, should we really be celebrating a 1-0 win against a team like Moldova when we had something like 16 shots in total, 7 on target? We could have come away with a couple more than 1-0.
Well, it's the whole thing about Scotland not having any 20-plus goal scorer since the 80s, which is where teams like Israel are outperforming us. They have a player who can score goals regularly. We don't.
Yeah.
Which is what we hoped Adams would bring, but he's not brought that yet.
I still like to see Adams and Nisbet up front, but I do agree we would need somebody, and there was always players who had the potential to do it. Jordan Rhodes had the potential to sort of push on and do it. Just I don't know what happened to him. Stevie Fletcher was the same. Elumu. There's got to be something. Obviously, Che Adams is a step cut off.
The thing is, we have the players.
He's a good player. I like him to a degree, but
we have the players who can kind of produce it. They've had the potential, but no one's came to it. They can produce it in club games, but no one's producing it in international games.
I mean, you look at countries like Wales and what Bale's done for them. I think he'd done it against Belarus there, where he scored the goal that made the difference. And we've just no go at.
No, definitely not. Hopefully, though, we can find something and push on. Hopefully.
Yeah, Craig Levein and play with no strikers.
Yeah, let's not do that. I think that's us on this.
Is there
on
any
this
other
one,
games we want stuff, or we just want to cut that short? Only really interested in Scotland, anyway, to be fair.
Agreed.
I'd agree with that. So I suppose that will take us to our regular round table segment. This will make Martin happy. I'm looking at what's trending, and number 5 is Clarice.
Clarice.
I was waiting for it. However, not for the reasons that he would think it is for Love Island. But anyway, we'll have a little nosy.
I'm hoping Lee Mack's trending because I did actually watch some of Sauchny in between the Scotland game.
He's not trending, but he might have been trending yesterday. However, what was trending earlier on today was the Andrew Marshall, which poses this question.
James would be wetting in his pants right now.
And not because he peed himself.
Although he does that too.
My question for you is, what sports person would you love to see having their own talk show?
Oh.
I'm going to go to Martin first because by the time the lag gets to him, he'll have an answer.
I can think of a few, but I'm sure Chris Kamara already got a bit of a talk show. Akinfenwa would be good.